Good afternoon. Originally, I had planned to read a piece today called Belonging, but since the program was printed, there has been flooding in my hometown in western North Carolina, and so today I'm reading excerpts from a very new piece about that experience. It's like floods follow you, a friend says to me. First, in 2022, I watched my rental car float away in the historic 1,000-year flood in Heinemann, Kentucky. 43 people died in that county. Unimaginable loss. The next year, hiking the long trail in Vermont with my son, we were forced by the governor to leave the trail due to unprecedented flooding. Unimaginable loss. And now in my hometown of Waynesville, North Carolina, flooding and landslides and still thousands unaccounted for. Unimaginable loss. At some point, we must begin to imagine it because floods don't follow me. I'm not unlucky, and it is no fluke. I had never seen a flood before 2022, and now I haven't gone a year without one. My first 1,000-year flood happened in Kentucky. That time, I was shocked by the speed of it all. I was teaching nonfiction at the Appalachian Writers Workshop. On my drive there, I had pulled over on the side of the road just to play in the creek. Feeling giddy, I took my shoes off. The water barely covered the rocks as I hopped across them, and the sun shone through the trees, making the water twinkle up at me. And I thought, how am I so lucky to be alive in this world? I gave my public reading at the end of a rainy day. I read some new work and was exhilarated as the evening wound down. Up in one of the houses we gathered, there were fiddles and guitars and banjos and open-throated singing. A new friend read my tarot cards. I shared with this new group some truths that I hadn't even said to myself about the future that I wanted. The way I was held by this community stunned me, and I thought, how am I so lucky to be alive in this world? When news of the rising creek reached us around midnight, it was too late. I dashed through the rain to my rental car, which I had parked 50 yards from the tiny creek that you might have stepped across the day before. Now that creek was something entirely different as it rose up to the steering wheel of my car. That creek became a force that swept away cars, it swept away houses, it swept away families. That flood came fast and left me in a nearly speechless awe of a bystander, though my feet were muddied and I could hear the shattering glass, and I could see the trees holding cars in their branches, and I could smell the gasoline in the air. None of my senses made any sense. And as the sun rose the next day on this chaotic, rearranged landscape floating by, I thought, how am I so lucky to be alive in this world? And then this month, floods came to my hometown in western North Carolina, high in the Great Smoky Mountains, a climate haven. Is there anything we can do? A neighbor in Maine asked kindly as he walked by and saw me on the porch. I say to him, no, I don't think so. He nods and goes into his house. But then I think, yes, there is something you can do. Don't look away. Don't think you are immune. Don't say to yourself, I don't live in a place where this happens, because neither did I. I did not grow up in a place that floods. That place is underwater now. We all live in a flood zone because we all live on a planet in crisis. Until we vote to deal with our climate crisis, we will continue to see more unprecedented disasters, more unimaginable loss. There is precedent. We must imagine it. And we cannot pretend that floods only happen in a certain kind of place, or that hurricanes can't come to the mountains. In this new time, we must understand that what happens to one of us happens to us all. Is there anything we can do? That is the question. Right now, you can donate to help these mountain towns recover and eventually rebuild. In November, you can vote to elect officials at the local, state, and national level who trust science, which may help us mitigate future disasters like these. And beyond the election, you can keep looking at places like Appalachia as complicated places that deserve your attention, not just when they're underwater. because floods don't follow me, but this will not be my last flood. Thank you.
While Annie and Lydia are getting ready to come out, Meredith just asked several times, is there anything we can do? I want to draw your attention to the back of the program. It's a QR code with a list of 60 things you can do. You don't have to do all of them. I would say that the most important thing is first on the list, and that's putting pressure on our elected officials. As Annie said, it only takes a minute, once a month, and you've done the best thing you can do. So, next on the list is on the program is a piece called Aria by Kevin Putz. And I chose this piece as I was putting this together because it hits me right in my heart as an expression of how beautiful this planet is. You'll hear that the minute Lydia puts her bow to the strings. Then, in the middle, there's some chaos, which shows, I believe, what we've done. And then, thankfully, it ends on a hopeful note. I just love this piece, and I hope you do too. Please welcome Andy Antonakis and Lydia Forbes.
Treasure your friends.
Sergei Rachmaninoff called Elegy, which he initially wrote for a beloved teacher of his. I can't remember the name, but I bet mine was Jordan knows who that was. Anyway, I don't want to put you on the spot, Miles. And I just have to thank Annie and Lydia again for that piece. That just, do we not all agree that that was? So when I heard this piece by Sergei Rachmaninoff quite a few years ago, I didn't see his teacher. I saw a great white shark moving slowly, sort of mysteriously, with some evil in there. And so we have an unexpected visitor today, a shark, who also happens to be my daughter, who also happens to be a real estate agent, and a shark and a real estate agent, well, those two are not mutually exclusive, I understand. But today, I'd like to welcome my daughter. We've had a wonderful time preparing this for you. It's called Wouldn't You Like to Be My Friend? Thank you.
Good afternoon. How lovely to see you all, looking so deliciously lovely. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Carcharion Carcharius III, and I've come a long, long way. Just returned from my spring break in the Guadalupe Islands. Lovely place. Lots of gorgeous women there. But romance, when you're a great white, is, how should I put this? Let me think for a moment. Complicated. Things usually begin with a bite on the neck or a swish of the tail. But we won't get into that right now because I see there are some yummy looking little children in the audience. Oh, look! Over there, in the sunlight, a little glittering fish. Mackerel, perhaps. Like a little ballet troupe, so elegant and synchronized. I should keep going. But I just can't resist these little beauties. What? They're teasing me. How dare they taunt me? They'll Don't be sorry. You really should not have teased me like that. Oh, that was so good. Could I have eaten them all? As I was saying, they really did not have teased me like that. Off they go to have tea with Mrs. Alsop this afternoon. And then I'll be stopping in to visit Mrs. Astor. There's an old saying that goes, no rest for the wicked. And so, move on I must. Looking for a friend. Wouldn't you like to be my friend?
We now have a 10-minute intermission. I would suggest not hanging around her, though. She's hungry.
Fishing communities. And because this is Maine and things like this happen all the time, when I arrived, I met my young friend Lachlan, who I have taught some piano lessons to, and discovered that his mom is our keynote speaker. So please welcome not only CEO of Atlantic Sea Farms, but also mom of Lachlan and Marius. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
We can't hear you.
There we go. Yeah, everyone hear me? All right. My favorite job is being mom to Lachlan and Marius sitting in the front row there. And I just made them throw away their Pokemon. I'm so pleased to be here today. And I'm excited to talk about a whole lot about time and activism. But first, just a little bit about why I'm here, I think. And it's because I created a company called Atlantic Sea Farms down in Biddeford, Maine. And we are leading the charge in growing the most climate-friendly food on the planet. And that's the reason we grow it here in Maine is not because of our climate. It's not because of our culture, our ocean. It's because of our people. And that's where I want to start this whole conversation. Some statistics first. Get the fear part out of the way. The Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 98% of oceans in the world. We are at the forefront of climate change, right here. And we as a state have the opportunity to either rewrite the book that's been written all over the world where people can put their heads in the sand and pretend the world isn't changing. Or we can do what we do in Maine, fiercely independent and stubborn as we are. We can write a new book. We can write a new chapter, and we can write it with our words. So instead of continuing to repeat the fact that the Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 98% of oceans, what we can repeat instead is we have more coastline than the state of California. We have 4,000 plus lobster license holders, the best mariners you're going to be able to find anywhere in the world. We have an independent spirit. We have an innovative spirit. And we survive the winter. We can make a difference. So I'm here to talk about humanity. And I think in this election, something that so often gets forgotten is how we treat our neighbors, how we think of our neighbors, and how we think about change. Just like the young ladies said earlier, yes, call your senators. Yes, call your congresspeople. Never give up, never relent. Equally as important, talk to your neighbors. Doesn't matter what political sign they have outside. And let me tell you a story about a group of people that I would argue is doing more at the forefront of climate activism in the state of Maine than most people in the entire country. They are mostly men. They are white. They are Republican. They have worked on the water for 4, 5, 6 generations. They are fiercely independent, stubborn as hell. I think most of you sitting here and think, okay, I know this type. And we can assume people's authenticity. We can assume people's intention. As soon as you make assumptions about who people are and what they're going to do, they'll do it. Or you can come with a proposition. The Gulf of Maine is changing. We're fishing for a lobster monoculture. How are you going to support your family in 30 years when lobster's not here anymore? Doesn't matter what political party you're in. It doesn't matter what you do at the polls. Every single one of us is motivated by love for our family, love for our communities. There's not a single person I know that is well motivated by fear. So how are you going to take care of your family in 20 to 30 years? Let's figure out a way together. Let's join hands and figure out something that we can do to adapt, something that we can do to diversify together. Next thing you know, in the entire country, 4 years ago, there were 30,000 pounds of kelp grown in the United States. This is the most carbon neutral food you can possibly eat at a time when 1/3 of our greenhouse emissions are coming from our food system. This year we landed 1.4 million pounds of kelp, all grown by Maine lobstermen, leading the charge. And it's not because I'm inspiring, and it's not because they love kelp. Most of them wouldn't even eat it. It's because when you talk to people with humanity, and you realize that everybody is facing the same future, everybody has the same goals. It doesn't matter what your politics are. So go vote, but also go talk to your neighbors. Talk about the love of your planet. Talk about the love of your family. Talk about the love of your community. And there will always, 100% of the time, be a way that you can find common ground to fight together. So this year, I'm probably not gonna make all the week count, but please go out and buy it. But I will say, as the elections come up, there is a lot of me that's motivated by fear. But the things that really get me excited is looking at my kids and knowing that there's a hope for a better future. We can all do something. Every time we eat 5 times a day, 6 times a day. I think the average American eats around 6 times a day. Every time that you eat, you can make a choice. Every time you talk to someone from a different political party, you can make a choice. And it doesn't have to be massive, it doesn't have to be dynamic, but we can all have the power to do something bigger. And to me, that's just the most exciting thing that we have on November 5th. It's not just voting, it's ways that we can be better parts of our own community and our own future. So I'm hopeful for a lot of things. I'm hopeful that some of the technologies that we're finding in fight climate change right now aren't technologies at all. They're a lobster boat, a knife, and some ropes. And that is how we create a better future. That is how we understand each other, and that's how we lean into the love that we have for one another, for the environment, and for the climate. So I wish you all a wonderful rest of your concert. I will say the coolest way to connect with people in common language is music. Everybody understands music. And I'm really proud to be able to be here today with such incredible musicians, really portraying the beauty and the love of the world and what we can all do together. Thank you.
What I love about jellyfish is the way they move, they contract and then. And I also love the combination of their beauty and their danger. So that's what I've tried to capture in this piece. I hope you enjoy it.
may know, but the most important thing you can do is, what if you have more than a minute and a half per month? What else can you do? You can start conversations with folks every day about climate change. You can join the Citizens of Climate Lobby or attend a meeting in one of the many chapters around the state. You could come to Washington, D.C. with us. You could write a letter to the editor asking people to call your members of Congress, because change starts with us, and change is gonna come.
What's the most important thing we can do again? You got it. We might have a little surprise after this last band, but in the meantime, please welcome Kenya Hall, Jorge L, and Mike Romase.
I want more